In this video, we're going to learn how to approximate fractions as decimals with a calculator. When the corresponding decimal for a fraction doesn't terminate, we will frequently use a calculator to approximate the decimal by dividing and then rounding. So we're asked to approximate the following fractions with decimals by dividing on your calculator. Give approximations to 1, 2, and 3 decimal places. So our first fraction is 8 over 21. Ready to type in our results. Okay. Here is the TI-30XS Multiview calculator, and notice there's a button here. It says N over D, that's numerator over denominator, that lets us type in fractions. So now the cursor is blinking on top. I'll type the 8. Now I'll use the arrow button to go to the denominator, and I'm going to type 21. I'm going to use the arrow to go out. Now if I hit enter, it just gives me the same result back. So what you need to do is this button right here. If you ever have a fraction you want written as a decimal, or a decimal you want written as a fraction, this converts one to the other. So I'm going to hit this button, and there's our decimal approximation. So for one decimal place, we look at the first decimal place. To the right is 5 or greater. It's 8, so we're going to round this to 0.4. For two decimal places, we're going to look 2 digits out. The third digit is less than 5, so we're going to round this to 0.38. And finally, for 3 decimal places, we go 1, 2, 3 decimal places. This digit is greater than 5, so we're going to round this to a 1, so 0.381. Now our next example is a negative decimal, or a negative fraction that we want to write as a negative decimal. I'm going to hit clear. To type in a negative number, this is the subtraction button, this is the negative button. So I'm going to click the negative button, the fraction button, 13 over 17. I hit enter, and then I'll hit the toggle button. So for one decimal place, here's one decimal place to the right of the decimal. The next place is greater than 5, so I'm going to round this to negative 0.8. Negative 0.8. For two decimals, I go to the 6 in the hundredths place. 4 is less than 5, so this would be negative 0.76. Finally, for 3 decimal places, here's a third decimal place. This is greater than 5, so I'm going to round this 4 up to a 5, negative 0.765. Now let's look at our last problem. Notice here we have a mixed number. I'm going to enter that. If I hit second and then the fraction button, notice above it says UN over D. And notice that gives me all the places for a mixed number. Okay. Also noticing I needed a negative in front of that. So I'm just going to clear it out. So I have my negative in there, and now we have 4. Use the arrows. 5 sevenths. I hit enter. It actually gives me an improper fraction, okay, but we want a decimal, so now I'm going to hit the toggle button, and this is our result. So one decimal place will be negative 4.7. Two decimal places, well, we'll go 7, 1. This is less than 5, so it's negative 4.71. And for 3 decimal places, I'd go out to the 4, 2 is less than 5, so it's negative 4.714. and we've rounded each of these to 3 decimal places.